Professora Cláudia, por gentileza.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good evening, afternoon. My name is Cláudia Balzer Medeiros, and I am FAPESP's representative in the Transatlantic Platform Consortium. And you are all very welcome, either live or afterwards watching the YouTube, to our second group webinar for the DGT call. This is going to be an exciting webinar because we are going to answer all of your questions. And without any further ado, I'd like to invite Manija Kamal from ESRC to present the call themes and
Professor, please open your microphone.
Thank you, Claudia, for the introduction. Very warm welcome to today's webinar, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. My name is Manija Kamal, a Senior Manager for International Partnerships at the Economic and Social Research Council, which is part of UK Research and Innovation. And I'm also a member of the Transatlantic Platform Coordination Team. So this part of the webinar is covering the description or the scope of the Democracy, Governance and Trust, the so-called DGD call. I prepared a few slides, and now I'm going to turn off my webcam so that we can focus on the slides. Let me just do that. So what I'm aiming to do, Claudia, would you mind just to do next slide? Thank you. So what I'm aiming during my presentation is to clarify the following 4 questions. Why did the Transatlantic Platform develop the GD call? What is the wider context? What does the GDD call is seeking to achieve? So with regard to the key objectives, what are the 9 themes of the DGD call? And what are the key eligibility requirements? Next slide, please. Why did TAP develop the DGD call? What is the context? We are facing exceptional social, environmental, technological, and economic and geopolitical challenges, such as conflict, erosion of democratic institutions, war, political extremism, climate change emergency, energy crisis, and so on. And the DGD call therefore seeks to understand how democracy, governance, and trust are essential to tackle short-term crises and long-term challenges, and are themselves a focus of the discontent and disruptions facing many societies. Next slide, please. What does the call seeking to achieve? The call aims to deepen and widen our knowledge and understanding of opportunities, challenges, and crises relevant to democracy, governance, and trust. In order to achieve that, applicants are invited to submit interdisciplinary research proposals that promise advances in improving and innovating our conceptualization and theorization of democracy, governance, and trust, addressing topics aimed at collective responses to global challenges for democracy, governance, and trust. Next slide, please. Empirically defining and describing the opportunities, challenges, and crises relevant to democracy, governance, and trust from a historical, contemporary, or prospective perspective. Studying or testing interventions at enhancing democratic processes, improving governance, and rebuilding trust in formal and informal political systems, economic structures, cultural associations, education and public institutions. Next slide, please. Advancing knowledge through co-developing work programs with communities, educators, and key stakeholders in civil society, education, and government. Examining the role of digital media, tools, and technologies in eroding or strengthening democracy, governance, and trust, and the roles of education, cultural institutions, and the law in shaping, facilitating, and restraining this role of digital media. And finally, offering diverse methodological, disciplinary, and cross-national perspectives on these topics. Next slide, please. These objectives are organized along 9 cross-cutting themes. And before I provide an overview on the 9 themes, please note interdisciplinary proposals or the requirement for applications to be interdisciplinary is understood as integration of information, data, techniques, tools, perspectives, methodologies, concepts, or theories from 2 or more disciplines or bodies of specialized knowledge. Next slide, please. So what are the 9 themes of the call? The first theme refers to concepts, understandings, and models of democracy, governance, and trust, and ask, for example, how should we understand, analyze, measure, and operationalize the challenges of governance, democracy, and trust? Next slide, please. The second theme, education, may impact the orientation of individuals towards democracy, governance, and trust. And the theme on education asks, for example, what role do accessible and equitable education and education system play in democracy? Next slide, please. We are aware that the circuit of communication established by mass media are crucial components in a democratic society, but at the same time, information and disinformation and misinformation overload may erode trust and impact the quality of governance. The theme media, information, and communication asks, for example, what role do governments and other groups, institutions, and networks have in addressing misinformation and disinformation in regulating different sources of information? Next slide, please. Shocks to the global economy, such as COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine, have impacted democratic politics in many countries. The global governance of economic systems has come under scrutiny due to inflationary pressures and interconnected supply chains. The theme economies and economic systems asks, for example, how do globalization and shocks from the global economy impact governance, democracy, and trust? Next slide, please. Social identity, status, and treatment of different groups have significant relevance to democracy, governance, and trust. Belonging and social identity may become less predefined by birth or socioeconomic positions than in previous generations, with consequences for democratic processes, the coordination of collective action, and feelings of trust towards formal and informal actors. The theme identities, discrimination, marginalization, and inequalities asks, for example, how does a society establish and maintain a positive value to inclusion and access across identity markers of difference? Next slide, please. Climate change and ecological crisis are posing increasing challenges for many communities, national governments, and transnational governance. frustration at the pace, commitment, and effectiveness of governments, businesses, and other actors in tackling climate change can give rise to alienation and social protest, while distrust as a driver of climate change, skepticism, and conspiracy beliefs. The theme ecosystems and environments asks, for example, how and why do democracy, governance, and trust matter for questions of sustainability? Next slide, please. The development of community-based and participatory approaches to research and knowledge in the past decades has challenged traditional academic research paradigms, created opportunities to recognize and celebrate different epistemological traditions and ways of knowing, and advanced new forms of social engagement, co-production, and research-led impact. The theme epistemologies, knowledge, and expertise asks, for example, how can dialogue between differing epistemologies and non-Western ways of knowing contribute to strengthening democratic cultures, institutions, and values, widening opportunities for participatory democracy while critically addressing anti-democratic practices and institutions? Next slide, please. The theme history and culture fully acknowledges the fact that historical perspectives enhance our understanding of democracy, governance, and trust, as well as help to envision and shape new futures. And in doing so, it asks, for example, what are the legacies of colonialism for democracy, governance, and trust? And how does domination and or conflict in the past shape the present? Next slide, please. And the final theme around power, authority, and conflict. So it's the ethnic, religious, gender, class, and generational conflicts, among others, generate political mobilization around the definition and allocation of rights and access to power, resources, and status. The formal and informal exercise of authority can help shed insights on where power lies and its consequences for democracy, governance, and trust. In the theme power, authority, and conflict asks, for example, what are the available mechanisms, processes, and spaces for local, national, and transnational political institutions in democratic societies to deal with conflict. Please note, it is not required that the project covers all of the 9 themes as we outlined in the instructions to apply document. Each proposal may address 1, 2, or 3 of the 9 themes outlined in the call scope document. The balance or focus of these themes is up to the applicants. And related to the question, which countries should the research be focusing on, please note there are no expectations regarding geographic focus for proposals. The focus should be on addressing up to 3 of the 9 themes outlined in the call scope document. Next slide, please. With regard to the general eligibility requirements for the call, please note that applicants are required to apply as a transnational research project partnership, and each project must include at least 3 eligible co-principal investigators from at least 3 different TAP participating countries from both sides of the Atlantic. One of the co-principal investigators must be nominated as the project's lead principal investigator, lead PI, and the lead PI must submit the full proposal on behalf of the consortium. Next slide, please. And please note the full proposal submission deadline is 6th of November 2023. Next slide, please. And we strongly encourage you to read the call scope document and the instructions to apply document carefully, which are available on the call website under www.transatlanticplatform.com. And on the call website, frequently asked questions document is available as well. To clarify certain questions, and feel free to contact us if you have any questions related to the call. And thank you very much for listening. So that's my part, Claudia. I'm handing over to you now.
Thank you, Manisha, for as usual, an excellent presentation. And I'd like to ask everybody now who is in this Zoom room to open your cameras so that we can take a group photo. To all of you who are online or who will watch the exciting YouTube, it must be exciting because we are all here and you are watching it. These are representatives of your funders. There's lots of people from Przemysław from Poland. Open Nombuzo. Please open your camera if you can. Thank you. Is everybody, there's still the one representative from oh, there you are. We're still missing some people, I think, but they're not present in the room. So Marcelo, Roberto, or Vera, could you please take a picture of all of us smiling? There's Josh from AHRC, there's myself from FAPESP, there's Carolyn from SHIRC, Russell from NEH, Anna from SHIRC, Manisha from ESRC, Wabana from NSF, Laurent from FRQSC, Tatiana from FAPESP, who answers lots of questions, Prudence from NRF, Przemysław from NCN. Okay, we are missing some of the funders who could not come, but there you are. And now I would ask all of you to close your cameras because you'll be called upon to answer questions afterwards. And I will start now my presentation, which is based on answering questions, okay, and giving a live. Can you see my camera now? Yeah, I'm not going to go into presentation mode right now because I want to jump into the website very soon. So, doubts during the webinar, please now at any time email this email if you have doubts to be answered during the webinar. No doubt will be left unanswered, and you can email this email or your funders at any time afterwards. And the goals of this part of the webinar is to clarify doubts on submission with a step-by-step proposal submission example. As Manisha said, the TAP website, call website is, and I'm going to show it to you, is this one, okay? And in this website, you have the call scope documents, which Manisha just explained, call instructions, on which I'm going to extend myself a little bit, tutorials on how to create an account and how to submit your proposal. Please create an account on the submission system immediately, okay, so that you can start preparing for submitting your proposal. And here, as Manisha mentioned, there are frequently asked questions. You click on the questions and you have lots of the questions that were asked during registration for this webinar are answered here already, okay? So please take some time to look at the frequently asked questions. And also, before I go to full presentation mode, I'm going to give lead PIs a very useful advice from myself. Please, it's not a FAPESP advice, it's a Claudia advice. Create a folder in your computer called Documents to Submit or something like that. And inside this folder, you place the PDFs, as you create them, of all the documents needed, 5 documents, to submit a proposal. And to help processing in the future, maybe, and to help you, I suggest that you standardize the names of these documents with, that's my suggestion, TAP-DGT, acronym of your proposal, and then say which of the documents this refers to. You have to submit 5 documents, additional documents, budget, consent form, and receipt, noise submission, and of course the research proposal. And now I'm going into full presentation mode. Okay. So Manisha has already presented, and I'll show you how to submit overall answers. I'm repeating this from the first webinar. And consider this a mantra. Most answers can be answered by looking at the funder addenda or the frequently asked questions in the call page. And do not hesitate before sending messages to your funders, okay? And the funders' emails are in the call webpage, the contact, and they are here. You know, you've seen some of them in the beginning in the group photo. There was a big question that has been asked by many people who registered for the webinar, which will be called deadline be extended, and the answer is no. This is a firm deadline that is based on the funders' internal schedules, and we cannot extend that, okay? So please keep in mind, firm deadline, November 6th. So to submit a proposal, you need 5 compulsory documents: the proposal itself, the budget, the additional documents file, a receipt of the notice of intent to apply, and a signed term of consent. Okay, I'll briefly show how to prepare these documents, and then I'll go to the live demo. So to submit a proposal, you lead PIs must have already registered your notice of intent to apply and received a message acknowledging it. If you haven't received this message, please ask your funders for a copy of the receipt. And then firm deadline, November 6th, to submit a proposal. So how do you prepare documents for submission? The research proposal, which is of course the core of the submission, the science of the submission, it has a compulsory outline, which is in the instructions to submit in the call page. But it is important to know that it has like a first page summing up the proposal, in which 2 elements are very important to remember. The first of all is that the lead PI must have submitted a notice of intent to apply, and it's the same lead PI in the submission. And the second is that the themes covered by the proposal must be the same themes that were in the notice of intent to apply. So these 2 elements of the sheet, of the cover sheet of the proposal, pay attention to them. And the instructions to apply have 2 templates at the end, which I'll comment on briefly at the end of this presentation, which are data management plan and the resumes. We received, and we keep receiving, lots of questions about what's the budget about, how to prepare a budget. So I'm going to repeat the instructions of the first webinar. The budget must have a summary spreadsheet plus eventual funder budget sheets, which are in the funder addenda. And this is from the instructions of the call. The budget file is comprised of a budget summary, followed by funders' budget forms, collated together when required. In doubt, ask your funder, mantra. So, assume this budget summary template. There was a question, how do we do that? The lead PI should ask each national team, how much money are you going to request from your funder? And create a table in which the first line is the funder, and the second line is an estimate of the amount each team is going to request from their funders. This is an estimate because things may change, okay, but so I'm saying, and in that funder's currency. So for instance, there is a Brazilian team that's going to ask 300,000 reals from FAPESP. Oh my God, we are going to ask 300,001. What should we do? It's an approximation, okay? It's an estimation. And the allocation of funds, which was a very common question, funds will be allocated by funders to the corresponding national teams according to funders' rules. There is no global funding, and each team will be accountable to its funder via normally the PI of that team. Okay, there's no global funding accountability to tap. My suggestion in blue, because there were lots of questions, how do we allocate funds? Can we use funds of one funder to pay for people from another country? In principle, no, as your funders. But to manage the separate funding budgets, I suggest that all co-PIs, in fact, create a kind of a managing team, informal managing team, and they all become aware of all country funds to make sure you know the limitations, the budget limitations or possibilities at each team, okay? So as not to have surprises at the end. I'm talking about after the project is approved. So additional documents file is one PDF file with any kind of document required by funder, including agreement letters from cooperation partners. Cooperation partners, which are people or entities that cannot be funded for one reason or another, either because they come from other countries or because they are business partners or NGOs or whatever, that cannot be funded by a given funder, okay? So they should provide a formal letter guaranteeing their own funding for participating in the project, okay? There is no format, there is no template for this letter. No, I made a mistake here. Let me continue. Notice of intent to apply. All lead PIs have already submitted a noise, remembering that the lead PI cannot change and the themes cannot change, okay? And when all lead PIs, upon noise submission, they must or should have received the mail message. So what is the NOI receipt? Save this message into a file, print it into a PDF file, and this is the NOI receipt. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm so sorry. Consent form, I'm going to give an example of each live, okay? The consent form is in our system. Download it, sign it, and upload it. This is the final signed consent form. It's a fixed form that a lead PI should sign, transform into a PDF file, and upload upon submission. So the lead PI should, as soon as this webinar is over, if you have not done so, create an account in the submission system. This may take 2 to 4 days, depending. We have a very detailed manual on how to do that on the call page. And then submit the proposal, which may take 2 or 3 days if you have all documents ready. We also have a manual for that. And now let's go to the live demo. The live demo, you should tap into SAGE, FAPESP BR. I'm going to, let's see what I have to do that. I'm going to increase. Okay, can you see what I'm showing?
Yes.
Thank you. Also, please, if you have already an account and you forgot your password or your username, click on here. Okay, and here you have to provide some information, and you'll receive an email with either your username or password. In doubt, contact FAPESP. Okay, so now let me fill in with my username and my password. Close your eyes, please. And there we go. Okay, so this is the interface to submit a proposal. Click on New Proposal, and then you'll see that there's the possibility of creating a proposal as a lead PI. That's the only thing you need to click on. There you are. And then you click on Add. This will create a template for you to fill little by little. You can save, go away, return the next day, and continue. Okay, so click on Add. And there you have all the documents that you will need. Already, so enter the name of the principal investigator, and every time they ask for something, if there is this magnifier, you click on the magnifier. And there, the only possible name is you, okay? So I click on Select, and immediately I'm added as the principal investigator. And I have to define a start date, which is after September 2024. So I'll add 18th of October 2024 for 24 months, but it can be anything between 24 and 36 months, which is 3 years. And what is the host institution? Again, magnifier. I suggest you write both, and here you write the name or acronym of your institution, which should already be registered. When you created an account, you informed the place where you work. So I'll put my university. I'll ask for search. Okay, and here it is, the place where I work. with all of its departments, because there are lots of people who have submitted to FAPESP, and I am at the Institute of Computing at this university, and I'll say select. And immediately I have finished the first screen. Save. Now, I have a very useful advice to all of you. Instead of continuing step by step, save future time by going to Documents. Download the consent form template. Should be downloaded. Okay. It should be here. This is the consent form template. Okay, fill it, sign it. And of course, I've already filled it and signed it. Here it is. Okay. And before continuing, this will save time and I'll attach it. This will give you a feeling of beginning to fill in. Remember, I told you to create a folder. And here you have consent form signed. I confirm that I want to attach it. Do you want to continue? Of course, you say yes. And already you have started to save in documents that you have to prepare beforehand. This is the easiest one to prepare. If you made a mistake at any time, you can delete for any document you attach and click on Save. Every time you click on Save, everything you have submitted will be there. So suppose you need to go out and return the next day. You can log out and continue some other time. Just to tell you, your work will not be lost if you click on Save. Now, you have already started a proposal, right? So write on my proposal. And this is the proposal I was filling. I write all kinds of proposals, so it's the top one on the list. And you can continue from here at any time until deadline. And if you click on Documents, lo and behold, I've already my consent form attached. Now, and my proposal has been identified. Now I go to Projects General Data. Title in Portuguese. You enter the title. It's written in Portuguese, but title in English. And repeat it, okay? This Portuguese is that because this was a template you could not change. Subfields of knowledge. Title of the proposal, okay? And to make sure this is the right one, I'll write XXX YY1. Subfields of knowledge. This is required information using a Brazilian table of subfields of knowledge. Oh, so suppose you are in humanities anthropology. You can choose as many subfields as you want. Okay, you selected the subfield and for some reason it did not work. Let's go again. Humanities, anthropology. Oh, select. Okay, and you can add subfields of as many subfields as are within the scope of your proposal, and the specialty, you add other things. such as keywords, and then here you add up to 10 keywords as appear in your proposal, okay? So you have finished general data, save, go to institutions. Now, the main institution was already filled in, but you have to add all funders here, funders that will be called upon. So I clicked on add, and here you have all the funders of this call. So for instance, A&R, I cannot see the screen, I'm sorry. Select. You have to have at least 3 funders here. Another funder. Oh, I cannot find my funder in the list. Click on 2. UKRI. ESRC. Select. And finally, of course, the Brazilian funder, because I'm Brazilian and I'm the lead PI. And I add select. And you can have all the funders, and you can have at least 3 funders because you need 3 countries, okay? And if at any time you make a mistake, you can click on the funder you clicked on wrongly and delete. Be very careful when you do that, because these funders are the one who will check eligibility. So if by any chance you added A&R, but you meant NSF, NSF will not look at your proposal. NAR will look at your proposal and say it's not eligible because it did not ask from funds from NAR. So be careful in selecting the corresponding funders, okay? Save again. And people involved. Okay, so here you have the only person involved. You cannot add anyone here, just the lead PI. If you try to add, it will say it's impossible. All co-PIs are in the proposal text, but not in our system. And what you have, and summary description. So here there is a mistake in our form because it says abstract in Portuguese. However, here we say, please enter the abstract of the project in English. This abstract may be used during the preliminary evaluation, okay? So you add the abstract. Add abstract as in the proposal document. And there you have finished the first part. Budget. Do not touch this. Okay, you are not supposed to fill in this part. This is for additional submissions in other calls. Do not use any kind of funding. Clicking here, do not click here. And then documents. Now, select the appropriate document. Okay, I've already added the consent form. Let me show you the documents that I have prepared beforehand. So we need to add a file called additional documents. If there's nothing to add, create a file that says not applicable, but the file must be attached. So here you have a mock agreement letter. I declare that I agree to participate in project, undertaking activities, blah, 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 and that the funding for these activities will be provided by my university. Okay? One example of letter of cooperating partner, and then comes any kinds of letters and additional documents required by funders. So this is what an additional documents file should look like. And I go back to Sage, and I will attach the additional documents file. Choose File, Additional Documents File, open, confirm. Do you want to continue? Yes. Remember, at any time you can delete and replace it until you submit a proposal. Requested budget. Requested budget, I prepared the budget file. What is the minimum that should be in a budget file? This template, okay, the funder and how much approximate requested funding in that funder's currency. Canadian dollars, rand, Swiss francs, pounds. This is my project budget with any additional budget documents required by funder addenda. That's all you need to do. And so let's go back and add the requested budget. Choose File, that, open, confirm, okay, and save. At any time, you can click on Validate. Validate will tell you what is missing. Oh my God, there's a problem with me, and there's 2 files missing. So that this way you can follow little by little. And what's the problem with me? You need to indicate the hours per week. That's something you have to do. So go back to project general data, go back to people, go back to Claudia, and here you have to say how many hours you as lead PI will dedicate per week. Okay, and click on confirm. If this is 0, the project cannot be submitted. Okay, so I save, go back to documents. Research proposal, I will attach the research proposal, which I've, of course, you have already prepared. Finally, proof of NOI submission. NOI is the Brazilian way of pronouncing NOI. And remember that I told you what to do. Print your NOI into a file. And that is something that you can do today, okay? Create your project submission proposal and attach your NOI. So let me attach NOI. Now, validate. Validate is to help you check if anything is missing. Oh my God, nothing keeps my proposal from being submitted. I'm so happy. I can visualize. And visualize will create a PDF, a printable file of your overall proposal. Okay, with every end where every file can be that you attach can be downloaded. This is an example of how funders will look at your proposal, how they will check the requested budget. This is one of the ways they will do it. How reviewers will check your proposal, okay? And this is how you can download to make sure everything is fine before you submit. So after you validated, the system validated you can click on submit. When you click on submit, you have to answer, is this your address? Is this your email? If you say no, okay, you have to change your data in Sage. If you say yes, and here you say there is another term of agreement that you are aware that your data as submitted will be accessible to funders, to reviewers as needed. If you don't, and then you confirm, and there you are. You get a receipt, okay? Print the receipt and keep it. And at any time, you can go back and look at your proposal. Okay? Now, suppose for some reason you submit tomorrow. Okay, and so here it is, you submitted a proposal. This, I clicked on proposal, my proposals. And this already appears with a number. You cannot change anything from it. It's over. Okay? Suppose it's returned for some reason before deadline. You made a mistake in a document, or you want to submit something else. Return to the applicant. That is what you get with a message saying you made a terrible mistake or something like that. But you don't want to start from scratch. So you want to copy parts of a proposal that was returned because you made some mistake. Click here and click on copy and add. And lo and behold, the proposal that was returned is returned to you. You have copied it into a new proposal, which you can correct and resubmit. Every time you submit a proposal, the previous ones will be returned to you. Okay, they will be deleted from the system. Only the very last copy will be kept, but to help us as a whole, do not keep submitting proposals all the time. Okay, so now I'll turn Sage off and go back to the questions. Are there any questions sent to chamada TAP FAPESP BR, Tatiana, or not? Tatiana.
Hi, teacher. I'm checking the emails. Early in this morning, we received something about the budget, but you answered in the end of the webinar. Let me see here. Okay. Dr. Daniele Batista, she wanted to know if the lead PI has to sign the consent form. I think
yes.
Yes.
The lead PI, that's what I showed right at the beginning. You are the lead PI. Create a proposal by clicking on new proposal. Type, fill in just the first information, like who is the lead PI, what's the institution. Go to documents. In documents, upload the consent form, sign and download it. Do this at once. It's easy to do, and you've gotten rid of 1 out of 5 documents. Also, upload your NOI file at once. You already have your receipt, and this way you got rid of the task of 2 out of 5 documents. NOI is ready, consent form is ready. Of course, the most complicated one is the proposal, and the others, the budget and the additional documents, are tasks that must be completed by submission deadline. Okay, and this is, if you have doubts, email chamada@FAPESP, and now I'm going to answer doubts that were sent during registration. As Manisha stressed, and as are in the frequently asked questions, we funders are not responsible for evaluating suitability of a research question. It's up to the reviewers. Okay, so we are receiving very many questions about, oh, do you accept a proposal that will deal with this problem or this combination of problems? The only thing that I notice in some of the NOI forms is that some of the lead PIs are proposing things that are completely outside the scope. One example is one of the abstracts is about microelectronics and how to develop and design a device. Unless this is connected to the proposal themes and scope, this will not be considered. But we are not responsible for telling you that this is not applicable. It's up to the reviewers, okay? Check the frequently asked questions. Many of the questions are already answered there. So doubt on themes. I said I was not going to answer, but this is just an example. Oh, there. I'm getting chats. Somebody
yes, teacher, is some questions that is coming.
I cannot look at the chat right now, but I'll look at it afterwards.
Okay.
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 Thank
Okay.
you.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. No, because you know, I get confused all the time by all kinds of things. So let's continue. I research projects on subjects included in the scope. Must all participating countries in the proposal explore the same question using the same methodology? 2 or 3 year projects, team composition. The answer, the global answer is it is up to the proponents to decide how to best approach the themes, methodological approaches, as long as they are within the call scope or in directives. A proposal may tackle 1 or more research questions as long as they are discussed and presented in an integrated way, okay? So as not to give the impression that you are just going to answer unrelated things. Just think about a global proposal on answering 1 or more questions along a given research outline and goal. Sorry. Blah, blah, blah for topics, research questions, etc. Please read call scope, in particular objectives, type of research that can be funded, and evaluation of the scientific merits will be left to the panelists. We got most of the questions concern team composition. So even though Manisha has already talked about that, I'll stress some of the details. One proposal may have several national teams, at least 3, okay, with 1 PI per national team, not more than 1 PI per national team. Some of the notice of intent to apply had several co-PIs from the same country. This is not allowed. A co-PI is the person that is responsible for the national team. And these co-PIs coordinate national teams. At least 3 countries and transatlantic, okay? For transatlantic, there was a question about would France, Africa, and the UK be acceptable? South Africa, France, and UK. There were 3 countries involved on this side of the Atlantic. The answer is no. At least one of the teams must be from the other side of the Atlantic. So you can have, say, Canada, the United States, and Brazil, yes, but then you have to find some partner, such as South Africa or UK, from the other side of the Atlantic, okay? And again, only 1 PI per national team. Please check addenda, and please check eligibility of the PI and of the team. Depending on the funder, the whole team should undergo eligibility checks. I do not know which funders require that. Check with your funder, okay? We, FAPESP, is checking the eligibility of the team PI. So you have a national team, and each national team should prepare a budget according to its funder's rules to tell the lead PI, I'm going to request so many US dollars, okay? And then the lead PI gets everything ready and submits as I showed you. New other doubts on team composition. Our project has a collaborator, this was a question, from country Y who cannot be funded. Or our collaborator cannot be funded, but our project will deal with a case study based on this country. Will the lack of a PI from country Y be judged negatively? Evaluation of scientific merits and compatibility will be left to expert panelists. We cannot say beforehand whether this will be considered negative or not. It all depends on how you present your proposal and justify your case, okay? And this can be any country, any collaborating partner. This one there. Country X is not listed. Can researcher from this country be on the project? Yes, as cooperation partner, but cannot be funded by funders, okay? Now, I noticed that many funders in their addenda, they have all kinds of differences concerning partners that cannot be funded. Associate partner, collaborating partner, whatever. So please, we cannot answer generic questions that correspond to a funder's rules. Check with your funder. And here comes a question to SHIRK. Can anyone from SHIRK answer this question? Either Anna or Carolyn.
Yes,
Certainly. Oh, do you want to go ahead, Carol?
Okay, so if the question was in the Canadian application, can an international co-applicant from a country that is not listed in the transatlantic partnership participating countries, so Mexico, for example, be included? So like Claudia mentioned, a participant from a country not involved in the call, if they bring their own funding, they may be a cooperation partner and include a letter. But if they don't bring funding, they may be listed on the Canadian team as a co-applicant if they come from a eligible institution, in this case, an international post-secondary institution. If they are not from an international post-secondary institution, then they may be listed as a collaborator. If you have a further question regarding this, you can also feel free to send us an email.
Yeah, so this is an example of a specific term used by SHIRK, co-applicant, which is not in the call, it's used by SHIRK. There was also a question, Manisha. I'm sorry that I did not, oh, it's not here. It was about oh dear, I'll look it up, but it's in the frequently asked questions. I think it was about involving industries or.
I believe it relates to to our requirement to liaise with the Strategic Coordination Hub for Local Policy Innovation Partnerships, LPIP. I'm happy to cover that now, Claudia, if the time allows.
Yeah, we still have 1 hour.
That's okay. So the requirement for UK-based applicants to engage with the Strategic Coordination Hub for Local Policy Innovation Partnerships, called LPIP, aims basically to connect the call, the DGD call, with UK's policymakers. So just to provide some brief background information about the LPIP. So LPIP has been established to serve as a kind of gateway to a UK policy audience. And the connections with the LPIP is aiming to strengthening partnerships and collaboration between researchers and policymakers at the local, regional, national, and international level, and other relevant local stakeholders. And I think it's really important because it led to a lot of confusion among potential applicants. And I think it's really important to clarify that, what we mean with this engagement. So please note, this engagement will start when your proposal is successful. And please note that LPIP Hub can only engage with individual projects and applicants from that point onwards and not before. So what I would suggest is that in the meantime, as a UK-based TAP applicants, you definitely should work on your plans and ensure and outline how your engagement and knowledge exchange planning is connecting with the LIPP. And I also encourage you to go to the website of the hub, and see what kind of activities are promoted externally and what kind of other opportunities are being run by the hub, and engage with the platforms they are offering, and make sure that you include a brief description of this engagement in your proposal. But again, the proper engagement will start when your project is successful and not before that. And I hope it clarifies.
Thank you, Manisha. That was very useful because it reminded me of something we had not said before, which is, please contact funders and see national addenda. Okay, so
exactly. So I will definitely encourage all UK-based applicants to get in touch with us and raise any specific questions they might have, and we are happy to liaise with them separately.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we encourage all applicants to contact their funders to make sure all their doubts are clarified before deadline. Okay, so what should each co-PI do? That's one question. I got 2 questions like that. So each funder has its own rules, okay? But my suggestion, this is Claudia's suggestion, okay, because I've coordinated huge teams from several countries already. And my suggestion is, get all the co-PIs together to compose kind of a coordination team of the whole proposal. Okay, and then you continue if the proposal is accepted. This will kind of help communication across teams. This is not the only way of doing that. This is just a suggestion. Okay, Teamwork, how do funders expect collaborators to work together? Should there be formal agreements? The answer is no. Normally no, unless required by funder. Okay, so for instance, a national team in Brazil may be composed of a lead PI working in the state of São Paulo, plus researchers from very many universities in the state, plus collaborating partners from other places, without any specific agreement. However, cooperating partners need to provide letters, okay, as I showed in an example. If one funder rejects a national team, will the project be rejected? Yes. So the first step after you submit the proposal and the call is closed is that funders will look at proposals and check eligibility according to funder rules. So that if a proposal has 4 or 5 countries involved and one of the teams is not eligible, the entire proposal will be considered non-eligible. And the lead PIs will be notified by the beginning of next year. That means 2024. All communications will be with the lead PI via the SAGE system or sometimes direct email. So lead PIs, please keep checking your mail messages from either TAP or SAGE. In particular, in the first stage, non-eligibility. And afterwards, at the end, by August next year, you'll be notified of whether your proposal will be funded or not, together with reviewer assessments and feedback. Does the funder have a preference for collaboration? Does the proposal stand more chance of more countries? No. See frequently asked questions that answer. I received these questions. I read the questions in the forms. These are all answered in the frequently asked questions. Are funds assigned to researcher or to institution? Depends on funder. Also, please keep in mind there is no joint funding. Each national team manages its own funds according to funder rules. How many proposals can a funder cover or fund? It depends on the budget requested by teams. A consortium, a proposal, will only be funded if all teams in that consortium can be funded. So please keep that in mind. We cannot fund everything that's submitted. First of all, there's all kinds of merits. There will be a ranking, but at the end, we may not be able to fund every proposal. Okay? And there's a question of any best practice advice for consortia from countries with disparate budget allocations.
Sorry, Claudia.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Claudia, just to follow up on the previous question about the available funding, I just want to highlight the document, the call instructions to apply document on the website. And on page 3 and 4, there's a table where you can see the total available funds per funding agency and the maximum funding per proposal. And then you can also calculate how many proposals can be funded related
Roughly,
to the available related to the available budget. So that I just want to add that as an additional information. Thank you.
Yeah, because it varies. There was a case in the last call of a team that did not want to ask for funds, but that's not allowed. Okay, teams must ask for funds. You do not need to ask for the maximum, but saying, oh, I'll fund myself does not exist, okay? I'd like also to point out that these disparities are not clear-cut because it depends on a country's context and funder limitations. For instance, Brazilian researchers by national law cannot hire personnel. So if you say, okay, I'm going to ask for $100,000 US dollars from Brazil and $500,000 from NSF. I'm not talking about limits. Okay, Brazil's budget does not allow for hiring personnel. I don't know about NSF or NEH. Can you guys just let me know about whether funding can either hire or supplement salaries? Kwabena, Russell.
Yes, NSF will allow
Okay.
payment for
And
personnel.
NEH as well. And I should say that the total request from the US is 200,000
Per proposal.
per proposal. So that could be split between NEH and NSF. It could be only to NEH or it could be only to NSF. But our national cap is 200K.
Okay, and should there be? I'm putting myself in the hat of a US-based researcher. If this researcher wants to be funded by both, should this researcher submit different things to each, or?
So NEH requires additional documents up front. And so those would be, you would attach the budget form as Claudia has described with the TAP budget form. And then there will be additional documents that we will request. Kwabena can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe.
Same with NSF.
Okay. And I would assume the same applies to Quebec FRQSC and SHRC.
I think, let me clarify.
Oh yeah, please,
move
Bob.
on. If you want funding from only NSF, you would submit the additional documents for NSF. If you want funding from NEH alone, you will add the additional documents. If you are requesting funding from both, then you will submit additional documents for both.
Okay.
NSF and NEH.
Thank you. Laurent, I don't know, and Anne and Carolyn, I don't know, Anna and Carolyn, I don't know if you want to say something about FRQSC and SHRC at this moment.
Sure,
Yes.
my understanding there as well.
Yeah, I'm here, but Anna, you can go first.
Sure. Just to say my understanding, you can correct me, Laurent, but my understanding is that in order to be eligible to submit for additional funding through FLQSA, applicants would need to apply first to SHRC for the funding, and then applicants, PIs that are coming from Quebec, that are based in Quebec, could apply for the additional funding from FLQ. Laurent, please.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the key word here is additional funding from FRQSC. So we complement SHRC's grant.
Mm-hmm. And Josh, since Manisha has already talked about the SRC, and Josh is from AHRC, are there any specific recommendations for applying to both, or how does it go in the UK? I don't know if Josh is still there.
Josh, are you available? If not, I'm happy to take that.
Yeah, you better just clarify that, because
So,
cases where more than one funder exists.
So we have got one pot, so it's a joint funding, and we
Oh, okay.
don't differentiate between ESRC and EHRC, so it's the UKRI pot.
Oh, okay. Thank
And
you.
it's clearly indicated on the call website and on our national addendum as well. So again, I encourage applicants, UK-based applicants, if they have any questions related to the funding and the distribution of the funding, they should get in touch with us.
That's good. And I actually have a question to Nombuzo, which I forgot, which about on team composition, because NRF has some requirements on the composition of universities that will make up a South African team. Is it possible just to briefly mention that?
Yes, Claudia. So what we require for South African applicants or PIs is that they co-opt a co-PI that comes from an HDI, which is a historically disadvantaged institution. If they do not do that, and those are PIs that come from historically advantaged institutions, then their application will be ineligible from the NRF side. But if you come from an HDI, you do not have to have a co-PI. Also, if you come from a science council or an NRF facility, you also do not have to co-opt the HDI co-PI. And I think another issue that they need to understand is that the co-PI, HDI co-PI also must be in possession of a PhD as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just so I know these questions have popped up in other circumstances, so we might as well clarify that. Funding, and then two last slides. They are based, please keep in mind that there are two templates that must be provided as part of the proposal using the sections indicated in the annexes. One is the data management plan that has 5 sections, A, B, C, D, E. You have to write at the end of your or somewhere as indicated by the guidelines within your proposal, you have to have a data management plan that has been written under with these 5 headings. Do not add the explanations, okay? The templates have explained each of these items. For those lead PIs who are not used to writing data management plans, my suggestion, again, it's Claudia's suggestion, is to check online something called the MP tool, which is an online tool to prepare data management plans. It's really nice, it's very useful, and that's used everywhere. There are different versions around the world, but the generic name is the MP tool. Okay, write the MP tool in your browser and you'll be able to register in for free. And then you can create your data management plan, and the tool helps you how to do that. And there were some questions on the resume. Okay, again, the resume, the template is at pages 17, 18, annex 2 of the call page. And the questions, what should I focus on? Do you have any guidelines? Focus on information that's most relevant to the proposal. And again, the sections must have titles as indicated. For more doubts on how to fill in your resume, feel free to contact your funders, okay? So I finished the presentation of and answering the main doubts. Also, lots of the doubts are already answered in the frequently asked questions of the page. And for generic doubts, you email your funder, specifically on the addenda, or email TAP FAPESP-BR, in particular for those who are not Brazilians. And I'm the main answerer to TAP FAPESP-BR, or email chamada@FAPESP.br for Brazilians, and Tatiana will answer them. So now I'll finish sharing my screen and we'll check the chat. Okay, there are other questions in the chat, right, Tatiana?
Yes, teacher. Yes, Professor Claudia. Let me see the first one.
Oh, okay. Claudia has just explained how to select classifications in the SAGE system and said multiple choices are possible. I was wrong. Okay, I was thinking of the subsequent field. Just one choice, one major choice. Please forget what I said at that moment. When you select a classification, it's one classification, and consider it as the lead PI's classification. In fact, to tell you the truth, this is not going to be considered in the evaluation. It's a requirement from FAPESP because of Brazilian legislation. Okay, so we had to keep it. Just add in whatever you feel is the most appropriate in your classification. No multiple choices, so very sorry. Second question, okay, so there is an example. I can find in the host institution, I can find the Polish Academy of Sciences, but not my institute. Since the Polish Academy of Sciences has many institutes, I would kind of like to ask, we cannot, you are asking us to add the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnology. We cannot do that during this webinar. What I advise you to do is go to, let me show again, share screen. Sorry about that. Sharing the screen. Oh, how do I get rid of this? And show. Let me go to the web page. Just a second. Now I've been logged out. But you go to the call, okay? And to the call page, and you have creating an account on the SAGE portal. This line. Okay. Click on here. And at the end of this document, somewhere, I promise you, there is step by step, there you are, page 13. Step-by-step instructions on how to register a new institution into SAGE. And this shows you how you can ask us how to register your institution. Okay, because it is not done by us, it's done by the IT team, and we cannot do it. Okay, so there's two different ways of doing it. The first option is to click on the Contact FAPESP service, which is here. Okay, and you contact FAPESP and ask for it to be done. And for speedy processing, use the exact wording. You still have 1 month to do so, so you can do it right now. I mean, as soon as the webinar is over. I hope I have been able to clarify this doubt. We cannot change or add institutional affiliations. It's only the IT people via this recipe, let us say. Oh, regarding the SAGE platform, could you please explain more about the specialty item? At the specialty item, you can add whatever fields you feel are more appropriate. to the proposal in question. Okay, like sub-subjects, lines of expertise. Okay, it's free text. Although the narrative resume template is only mandatory for the lead PIs and co-PIs, does the research proposal need to include the names of the other researchers who are neither lead PI nor co-PI? You do not need to. You may want to add in the description of what is going to be done, whether there is someone specific. Oh, Przemysław from NCN, would you like to answer this question, please?
Yeah, I think I would like to add something because it's a question from the Polish applicant. And we have this regulation at NCN that Polish applicants cannot indicate names of the team members who are to be recruited in an open call. And these are postdocs receiving full-time remuneration and also persons receiving money from this budget item called scholarships and salaries for students and PhD students. So if this is the case, then you cannot indicate the name because these persons have to be recruited in an open call. So that's why.
Thank you. That's very useful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Basically, that would apply to many of the other funders, but it really depends. Okay. If you feel, and in fact, if you feel during your proposal that you need to clarify something about the specific sub-theme or task, feel free to add whatever. But it really depends on reading the proposal as if you were assessing it and see whether this is needed or not. Next question. Theme changes in final proposal. You should not do that. If you want to change a theme from the ones you submitted in an NOI, please contact us to check how and whether this can be done. Okay. Dr. Ben Said asks, can a co-PI be involved in more than one project? A co-PI can be involved in more than one project, but not as co-PI. He or she can be a member of the team, of another team, and therefore not even be mentioned. But a co-PI can only be co-PI or PI in one proposal. Okay. Presumably, budgets to national funding agencies can include costs associated with a research team from that country, plus other costs associated with cross-national projects. It really depends on the funder. Okay, so I cannot answer that question. It's the team. For instance, you were asking for, I believe you were in the UK, I'm not sure. Okay, so you have to ask UKRI if your team, your UK team, can include costs to bring in people from other countries or to pay for scholarships in other countries. Then there are French researchers or South African researchers. They have to ask their funders if their budget can include some sort of expense to cover whatever from other teams. This is impossible to answer here. It's only each funder because the budgets are regulated by funder country regulations and not by us. Dr. Fenwick McKelvey asks, can you explain the difference between a collaborator and a co-PI? A collaborator. Oh, okay. Carolyn, you want to answer something? Please
Yeah.
go.
I believe this is directed to Shirk. So basically, both the collaborator and the co-investigator, they both have a significant contribution to the intellectual direction of the project, and they do research the same. But the only difference is that the co-applicant for the national team may have some responsibility for financial aspect of the research.
Okay, but there is something else. Oh, Anna wants to complement.
Yeah, just maybe to add to that, I think that we're making things complicated maybe for the other funders. So I just wanted to clarify that what the categories are if you're applying to Shirk. So for all of the funders, there's the lead PI and co-PIs, right? So these are the main applicants. But then in addition to that, for the Canadian team, you can invite co-investigators. So co-investigators and co-PI is not the same thing. So the co-PI is really who would be funded in Canada. Say the lead is from the UK and a co-PI is from Canada. Well, in this case, if awarded, Shirk would fund the co-PI. That would be the main applicant from Canada. But on that team, you can also include co-applicants and collaborators. And what Caroline was mentioning is that the difference between co-applicants and collaborators has to do with the use of funds. So essentially, a co-applicant could access funds for research, whereas a collaborator can only be reimbursed for travel costs, for example. So hopefully
okay, but these are Canadian. Overall, forget everything that has been said if you're not Canadian, okay? Overall, the call only recognizes two kinds of people or institutions. The PI and the researchers and cooperating partners who cannot be funded. These are the two categories for the whole call. And then countries like Canada have all kinds of other names, and you should, if the answers were not captured or clear enough, or if you need more explanations, please email Anna and Carolyn. Not, of course, don't email them, but they are the ones who are going to answer you, so you know their faces, okay? Now, Dr. McKelvey says that a few of my colleagues have asked for expanded proof NOI submission. The mail on the confirmation screen only lists it's being accepted. That is not the case. I don't think you have received the appropriate mail message. Again, I'm going to share my screen and show you what a receipt looks like. The receipt, this was sent to me as a receipt when I submitted the fake NOI. It's sent by Chamada TAP FAPESP, and it contains everything that's in the NOI. The lead PI name, the co-PI's names, the funders that I selected, the themes that I selected, and the summary. It contains everything. In doubt, please email. Please email this second email here, Chamada TAP or Chamada TAP or whatever you say in English, and ask for a copy of your NOI, okay? It has everything. Then Dr. Catherine Prager asks, is there a latest start date? Not really, but you are expected to start sometime in 2024, okay? It may take several months to recruit a postdoc. Towards the end of 2024, it's fine depending on the funder, okay? So if we assume all projects will start in 2024 because some funders have to allocate those funds by the end of 2024. Check with your funder, because the postdoc anyways is not going to be a postdoc paid by the whole consortium. It will be paid by a specific funder. So the consortium, and it may take maybe 6-7 months to hire a postdoc. The project cannot depend on the postdoc alone. this is not something that can be done, okay? So maybe a national team may depend on a postdoc, which is not recommended because it may take a long time, as you say, to hire a postdoc, okay? But you may consider any time between September and the end of 2024 as beginning a project, okay? So now I want to know if there are any more questions. Tatiana is reading the mail messages.
Yes, nobody sends another message. So I think every doubt was answered. So maybe we can regards the collaboration partner for FAPESP, we have a topic that include in our addenda. We include the definition for this person for FAPESP. So we consider collaboration partners and
show your camera, Tatiana, so people know what you look like, please, if possible. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm here. So for FAPESP collaboration partner and co-applicants is the associate researcher on SAGE for Brazilian researchers. They was not allowed to receive funds from FAPESP, just the main researchers. So collaboration partners and co-applicants is not able to receive the funds from FAPESP. I think this is important for Brazilian researchers. And
there is FAPESP extended the deadline for eligibility consultation to what it is, the 17th of October, is that it?
Yeah, 17 October for Brazilian researchers, because we noticed that on the NOI, many international lead PIs include Brazilian researchers in their consortium, but the Brazilian researchers did not ask for evaluation, for eligibility evaluation. And then this is mandatory for FAPESP. We are ongoing the evaluation before the end of the submit the final proposal, because maybe it's possible change the co-PI. So this is very important. And please pay attention, Brazilian researchers who doesn't send the eligibility, ask for eligibility. And the main advice is the researchers need to send the eligibility under the name the researcher who will submit the proposal for
let me, it's all in our page, okay?
Yes.
So what Tatiana is saying, and this applies to FAPESP only, is that FAPESP does preliminary eligibility checking for all Brazilian co-PIs. So if you want to add a Brazilian team to your proposal, make sure that the Brazilian PI has submitted an eligibility check to FAPESP by October 17. We noticed that there were lots of NOIs that named Brazilian co-PIs, and these Brazilian co-PIs had not yet sent their eligibility checks. If a Brazilian is deemed non-eligible, the whole consortium will be ineligible. Okay, so if you add a Brazilian partner, FAPESP will answer before call deadline whether that person is eligible or not. If the person is not eligible, eliminate that person from your team or the whole consortium will be ineligible. That's what Tatiana said, and the rest you can ask us using email. We're almost at the end. Thank you, Tatiana. We're almost at the end of our webinar, and I'd like to ask all of you here whether there are other clarifications that you want to add to webinar attendees or people who will look at this YouTube record afterwards.
Professor Claudia, we received last questions about the word limits.
No, the question is, what are the word counts for the different sections of the proposal? Are there templates for this? No, there are no templates. And the word counts apply to the abstract and to the templates in the annexes, but no, there are no specific word counts that I remember.
I'm afraid, Claudia, I'm afraid it is the case with regard to the research proposal. Research description. It says clearly, please include include the following information in up to 6,500 words.
Oh, thank you. That's true. I had forgotten.
Which is excluding the bibliography, the narrative resume, and the data management plan, of course. But again, I will urge all applicants to read the call instructions to apply a document on the call website carefully, and we on page 8 onwards, you will see some detailed information about the proposal content and the structure in relation to the research proposal, and then of course including the word count. So again,
thank you.
Don't want to repeat that again and again,
no,
but it would be really,
I should have asked. I don't remember. I have no idea.
It is very useful to read the call instructions to apply the document and digest all the information and get in touch if you have any questions. So, but to sum up, there is a word count related to the research description, which is 6,500 words, excluding the literature, the narrative resume, and that data management plan, of course.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, but the useful advices that Juanita just repeated are, you have to read the documents, but there are so many things to read that if something is not clear, if you do not remember, do not hesitate to email us until the 6th of November. And all funders will be waiting for your mail messages. Remember that the call closes at 11:59 p.m. Brazilian time on the 6th of November. And I myself will try to stay awake to answer some questions, but please, two very important things. Create your account in Sarge immediately if you have not already done so, and start filling in the information for your submission right now. Because if you have any problems in using the system and not remembering your password, not remember your login, this is the time to ask. We will not be able to help you if you have problems by 6 p.m. Brazilian time on the deadline day of that, which is 9 p.m. UTC. From then on, it's impossible to solve system problems. Okay. So with this, I'd like to end by thanking all of you who have asked questions and who are following the webinar. I'd like, of course, to thank all the funders. You can turn your cameras on, those who are still here, and just to say goodbye to the people who are listening to the. You can wave goodbye too. That's my style. It may not be everybody's style. Kwabena, hi Kwabena, and from Poland and from Quebec. And I'd also like to thank FAPESP, Hayana, FAPESP's supporting team, without who nothing would ever happen. And in the case of this webinar, there's Roberta, there is Marcelo, and there is Vera. And with that, I consider this webinar over. And I'll ask Marcelo and Roberta to, hi Tatiana, Tatiana is still there, to finish the webinar, the recording, and that's it. Okay, so. Okay, is it over? Marcelo?
Not yet, Professor, please wait a minute.
Acabou?